Okay, thank you so much. First of all, let me thank you to the Denver Society for organizing this lecture. In COVID-19 situation, this kind of activities can provide more opportunities for us to exchange and share information with relevant people, with experts, with those who are interested to listen new discoveries, new information about, especially about the archaeology and other fields throughout the world. So I think, and particularly, in a wartime country like Afghanistan, sharing information about the progress of archaeological activities through this kind of platforms can give much better sense of understanding for the scholars where in the last several decades, visiting Afghanistan by these experts are very difficult. These lectures can give them a kind of sense that what is going on in the field of archaeology in Afghanistan, beside all these blasts and bombs and other things. So definitely, there are a very good progress in the field of archaeology in Afghanistan, even in current circumstances. So in today's lecture, I will discuss briefly, not in detail. There's a lot of projects and a lot of excavations and research going on throughout the country in various archaeological sites, but in this lecture, I will briefly outline those activities and those sites where the Archaeological Institute of Afghanistan are currently working the archaeological excavations, restorations, research, and other relevant activities. For organizing all these, I'm really thankful to the Denver Society of the Archaeological Institute of America for organizing this lecture. Let me start the presentation, and in this presentation, I will mostly focus on the development happening in the field of archaeology in Afghanistan, and especially the restoration projects and the excavation projects going on in Afghanistan. So I'll focus on these kind of activities, and and you can see here in the screen the table of content of my today lecture. It's around nine sites where currently the Archaeological Institute of Afghanistan is doing the excavations or restorations work. So I'll briefly discuss these nine archaeological sites like the Topdara, Ghondi Sabzabad in Ghazni area, and Khumzargar in Kapisa, Naranj Misainak, and a couple archaeological sites in Kabul Valley and Balahissar, which is recently started by the Archaeological Institute together with some other international organization. So I'll briefly discuss about these sites. The recent archaeological exploration affirmed that Afghanistan is the emerging place of many civilizations in South and Central Asia. This land was also the meeting point of many trade substances along the Silk Route. Due to significant geographical location, many of the world famous empire tried to occupy the area and cross from here to surrounding part of this world, where they left a significant influence on local cultures, religions, art, trade, customs, and politics. This amalgamation of culture opened new ways for connecting people from different parts of the world, and Afghanistan played a central role in this amalgamation. The evidence unearthed from the Bronze Age sites in Afghanistan proved that some raw material, particularly lapis lazuli and tin, were exported to Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Indus Valley civilization, where it was used for different purposes. The recent archaeological explorations in Afghanistan resulted very important discoveries, which provided a lot of information on different periods of the country, particularly the site of Miss Anak, Khumzargar, and Topdara archaeological sites are unique in its type. In this presentation, I will discuss the ongoing archaeological activities and contribution of the outcome of these activities or these excavations and the history of not only in Afghanistan, but the history of the region. Uh, So here, I just briefly mentioned the map of Afghanistan. You can see in the small dots where the archaeological sites are located. It's been more than 5,000, around 5,000 archaeological sites have been identified or surveyed until today. But there has not been a scientific and complete survey has not been done throughout the Afghanistan, and maybe these sites which have been identified until now is around 5,000 archaeological sites, maybe more than twice or thrice of the current number of archaeological sites. So currently, we are working with various team for the scientific survey. Especially, we are working with the Oriental Institute of Chicago University on this survey and preparing GIS map and database of all these archaeological sites, working with also with the French archaeological delegation in Afghanistan in these parts. So hopefully we can identify and we can survey the different part of the country to identify the archaeological sites. Coming to the point of the archaeological excavation, recently in almost the last 2 or 3 years, the Archaeological Institute, with the financial assistance provided by the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, and the technical support from the Afghan Cultural Heritage Consultation Organization, or ACHCO, we have started the excavation and restoration project of Topdara archaeological site. Topdara is one of the important Buddhist period site located 5 kilometers southwest of Charikar, a city in Parwan province of Afghanistan. The site was identified in the 1830s by Charles Mason and included in Wilson 1841 publication, Ariana Antigua. According to Professor Alfred Fuscher, who visited the site in 1922, the site dated to first half of the 2nd century AD. The site was also surveyed in 1965 by a team of Japanese archaeologists. The site has been seriously damaged due to illegal human interventions in later periods, especially during the internal war and conflict. Since after 1970s and 1980s until 2001. So AIA recently started excavation and restoration of the site with financial support from the US Embassy in Kabul and technical support from the Afghan Cultural Heritage Consultation Organization. The base of the stupa, we during the excavation, we found it that the base of the stupa is square in shape with stairways on main axis. While the second story of the stupa is circular in plan, you can see in the picture, the one picture, the bottom one, which is before the starting the excavation and before the restoration work. But the upper picture, you can see some of the renovation and excavation work. In the latter, you can see more details on this. Dome is circular with a false niche, and in front of the stairway, first story contained with a base wall and semi-column. Stairway contained 2 landings. You can see there in the one picture, you cannot see, but the other one you can see there is a pradakshina part and some decorative element. In this picture, you can see some more details of these niches in this pradakshina part and some other details. And you can see that the excavation work going on just close to the stupa where we founded a monastery. So recent archaeological excavation at the site of Dogdara unearthed stupas, coins, potsherds, statues, and other glimpses of Buddhist civilization. The stupa and monastery are rectangular in shape, uh, where stupa is measuring around 33 meters in height with monk cells and a surrounding wall. The monastery is made up with clay and built up within diaper masonry and clay bricks. This is an important Buddhist stupa near Bagram district. Bagram was the center of the capital of the Kushan Kanishka period, where they transferred during the Kushan period, especially during the Kanishka in the first half of the 2nd century AD. they transferred the capital of Koshan from the north of Afghanistan to Bagram, or to the current Kapisa in Bagram, Parwan province. And this stupa is very closely located to the Bagram district. And it may be built by Kushan Emperor Kanishka and generally dated to second half of the second century AD. Charles Mason also visited the site in 1830s, and definitely he was in searching of some antiquities, and we found it the evidence during the excavation that he was destroyed major part of the stupa structure, and probably they stolen some of the artifact from the stupa. And the recent excavation by Afghan archaeologists clarifies the various steps of the constructions and enlargements. The delegation established that the stupa is monumentalized by the addition of a staircase in later period. We found that there was some later addition to the structures, probably which is not contemporary to the construction of this stupa. So here you can see what we have found it until now during the excavation. There are some clay statues, which is in very close to the stupa building, and we found it the monastery. So we have found it these clay statues and some thrones, which has been decorated. You can see some lotus flowers and some other items. You can see that the pottery that we have excavated from this side, and some schist reliefs, decorative plaques. So here in this picture, you can see the restoration, after the restoration of the stupa, that how it looks like the pattern. But just close to the stupa, in the monastery, the excavation is going on, and probably in the coming few years, we can complete the excavation, and the site can be converted to an archaeological park and can be restored and preserved for the future generation. The other city, or the other site that we have been working currently in Afghanistan, this is located in Jalalabad in Ningar province of Afghanistan, Ghondi Sabzabad. This site is much important, and this was located very close to the Hadda archaeological sites, and Jalalabad was the part of the ancient Gandhara province. And there have been a lot of archaeological sites dated to the Buddhist period, especially to the Gandhara, and the evidence that we have unearthed so far, mostly the Gandharan art. So now this site is a Greco-Buddhist archaeological site, which is located in the ancient region of Gandhara, and almost 5 kilometers west of the city of Jalalabad, and it has been located around 400 meters east of Kabul Jalalabad main highway in the Nangarhar province of eastern Afghanistan. So far, we have unearthed various structures in this site. You can see this is the aerial view of the site, the man you can see. We have unearthed a lot of pottery, coins, and structures, and in the upper part are the first layer of this site is dated to the early Islamic period, but we have been reached to the structures which belong to the Buddhist period. So we can say from the excavation until now, we have observed that the site has been occupied by the early Islamic dynasties, I mean, from the 10th and 9th centuries. So we have unearthed these artifacts from the site. But this is the beginning of the excavations, and probably we can achieve some more good results from these excavations, and which can prove more historical background of this site, not only about this site, but about the Jalalabad city and Nangarhar province, or overall for Afghanistan. Another city site that we are working these days is in Ghazni province of Afghanistan, and the area you can see here between these two minaret. This area we are doing the excavation, and we plan to convert this area into an archaeological park, which can be dated to the Islamic archaeological park, Islamic period. And this site is very important, and the site is known as the Ghazni Minaret, and the two elaborated decorative minarets towers located in Ghazni city and in central Afghanistan. They were built in middle of the 12th century and are the only surviving elements of the mosque of Bahram Shah. The both minarets are around 600 meters apart from each other and lie in an open plain. You can see in the picture, northeast of Ghazni city. Both minaret of Ghazni are 20 meters tall and built of fired mud brick. The surface of the towers are decorated beautifully with intricate geometric patterns and Quranic verses on elaborate terracotta tiles. In the 1960s, both towers were fitted with sheet metal roofs in a limited preservation efforts. The 12th century minarets are the most famous monument of Ghazni city and are among the last surviving remnants of the great Ghaznavid Empire. The two minarets are called Masood III Minaret and Bahram Shah Minaret after the ruler who built them. Masood III, which ruled around from 11th century, 1099 to 1115, and Bahram Shah ruled from 1118 to 1157 AD. The excavated palace of Masood III lies nearby to these towers. And there was also some restoration work previously done with the help of the U.S. Embassy in Kabul of this minaret and some other structures located very close to this minaret. During the excavation, we have unearthed some pottery which date to the same period, to the Ghaznavid period, and you can see that the general layout of the site where the archaeologists are making the excavation. Another important site that we are working in Kabul Valley is the Miakhel Monastery. This is a monastery which is located to the south of Kabul city, towards the Logar province of Afghanistan. This site is also belong to the Buddhist period, and mostly we have identified and excavated the artistic features, which was the mostly the Gandharan art sculptures we have identified, excavated from the site, a monastery and some stupas and monk cells and fortification wall and some other structure have been excavated until now from this site. But this is a big site which is located closely to the mountain of Kabul. You can see here in the picture, and the excavation is going on. And we have identified some coins, excavated some coins. These coins dated to the 3rd and 4th century AD. Another important site that we have we are doing the excavation in this area. This is called Khumzargar. The Khumzargar site is located in Kapisa province. Kapisa is the ancient capital of the Kushan Empire, and especially this was the capital of the Gandhara region in the 2nd and 3rd century. From here the Gandhara province was controlled and administrated. So we have a very good results from the excavation of the Khumzargar site. You can see we have excavated a panel, a relief in schist, in green schist stone, This relief is one of the most important discovery of our excavations. In the recent excavation that what we are doing, you can see the panel describe the Buddha itself. He is sitting under the tree, but he is like a fasting Buddha. He has been there, and then when he is leaving his throne, and then he was very weak, and he put a tree, and then there is a lady who is donating some food to the Buddha, and then there is another donor who is donating some flowers or maybe some other things to the Buddha, and finally Buddha is again sitting in another throne. So these are the much important discoveries that we have found it a couple months ago from the Khumzargar archaeological site, and our excavation are currently going on. There's some other discoveries that we have. As I mentioned, this is a Buddhist period site, and we have the Kandaran art artifacts have been excavated from these sites. You can see the line, the two line, and there is some relief, some um, this relief shows a very important discovery, a very important scene. Probably there is some people who are bargaining and they are buying something from a plane. So there are the different stories in these panels. So these are the important discoveries that we have made in our recent archaeological excavation. And I think I would say that these excavation has been leading by the Afghan archaeologists, and this is the about almost after 50 or 40 years back that we have been doing this kind of work in Afghanistan, and we have been unearthed very good discoveries, and these are the new material that we can provide to the scholars, to the researchers, and that there is much more there will be much more information for their research. So these are the new and important discoveries that we have made from our recent excavation. One another important site you can see is this one, the Shewaki Stupa. Shewaki is the area which is located to the south and eastern part of Kabul. This Shewaki area was very famous for the Buddhist monuments and Buddhist archaeological sites. These are with a lot of Buddhist archaeological complexes. Among them, one is the Shewaki Stupa, and this stupa has been recently the excavation has been recently started by the Archaeology Institute of Afghanistan, and the restoration work has been technically supported by the ACHCO organization, and then the financial support has been provided by the Alif organization. And you know, we have been discovered very good objects, so coins have been found from the site, and different part of the stupa which were heavily destroyed during the war, internal war and conflict period. These staircases, and then the other remaining part of I mean the other remaining part of the stupa has been excavated, and the upper part, which was heavily looted, destroyed during the war period, has been under reconstruction. So you can see a couple of example in these photographs. Another important site that we have started the excavation recently is located in Kandahar province, which is the western province of Afghanistan. You know, Kandahar, this is called Naranj Mane, and Naranj Mane means this is a orange palace, which is located in Kandahar. And this site is a historical place which dates from the area of Hotak dynasty and Durrani period. But the lower structure, the upper part is belongs to the Hotak and Durrani period, but the lower structures are dated to earlier period, and probably the palace was believed to have been built on the hilltop in ancient city of Kandahar, where Alexander the Great established in Alexandria. So probably this palace was built on Alexandria, which was established by the Alexander the Great. But during the with the passage of time, that those structures was destroyed, and later new structures were built. So probably we can reach to that evidence where the Alexander had built this Alexandria. And one important feature of the site is this is located very close to the bilingual inscription of Ashoka, which is very close to this Norimane site. So that's why the site has been historically this is a very important and very crucial site. You can see here there is another site that recently we have started the restoration and the excavation project. This is the Balahissar of Kabul, which is located in the main city center. The history of Balahissar goes back to the 4th and 5th and 6th century AD. There we have evidences that the site, the Balahissar, has been constructed in 5th and 6th century, but I can say that that recently we did a GPR survey in the area of Balahissar, which provided more information about the history and about the chronology of the Balahissar. And probably this site has been will be dating to the 3rd and 4th century BC. And therefore, we started the excavation here, and probably we can prove that the site is much older than what we have the information until now. And the restoration is also under progress, and probably we are planning to construct to convert this Balahissar to an archaeological park. This can be very helpful for the management and protection of the Balahissar. So this will be the first and the only archaeological park that we will have in the Kabul city. I think this is a very good initiative that we have started, and this can help us much more there to protect these kind of very important archaeological sites. The area has been currently administered and using by the Afghan forces. You can see there are some remains of the tanks and some other material which was used during the war period in Afghanistan, and was probably destroyed during the war period. And you can see some of the evidence that they have left in the site. So the site will be cleaned, the site will be excavated, and the site will be restored and converted to an archaeological park. And this could be the one of the place for the research as a research center for the archaeologists and for the archaeology students, that they can come and they can do their research and they can be got training in this area. Another important site is the Qol-e, and the Qol-e archaeological site is located in south of Kabul city. The Qol-e Buddhist complex is a Buddhist monument in the Kabul region in ancient Greater Gandhara, which is a reminder of the Great Kushan Empire and Buddhism nexus, which is often depicted in Gandhara artifact. There is an archaeological finds indicate that this is an important site located in the center of the Kabul city. One of the important discoveries of the site, this site is a big stupa surrounded by small votive stupa, including some other features. Some coins of later period are also founded from the surrounding area of the site, which shows the emergence of later phases of the region history and its close relation with the adjacent areas. These sites are among the most significant archaeological sites in ancient Gandhara region. Here you can see some other example of the big stupa that we have found it, which are surrounded by some small stupas as well, some clay sculptures we have been excavated from this area, and wall paintings. All of these are made of clay. You can see here the recent findings of the clay sculptures. Another important project that currently the Archaeological Institute is working is the Misanak archaeological site. The site of Misanak, is located around 35 kilometers south of Kabul city. The site was previously excavated by Afghan French archaeologists and recently excavated by Archaeology Institute of Afghanistan archaeologists under the supervision of mine. The most remarkable discovery made 2018 onward was the Sanskrit manuscript and complete ancient settlement around the mining areas, including the administrative building, residential area, city wall, water channels, mining extractive and processing areas, and around seven religious, Buddhist religious complexes have been unearthed so far during the recent excavations. These sites are protected under the provision of 2004 Law of Protection and Preservation of Historic and Cultural Properties of the country. The World Bank has sponsored the Minaret Archaeological Project through Sustainable Development of Natural Resources Project. Since 2011, it continues to reveal new information every day on the religious, industrial, social, and economic structures of the inhabitants of Messianic. And while work is being focused in the areas that have been identified as priority, considering the mining exploitation plan, there is still a large area within the red zone that has not been researched so far. Uh, you can see here some of the items, objects that we have excavated so far from this Anak. Let me explain a little bit the historical background. Political conflict started in Afghanistan for more than 40 years, which created not only the political instability, but also destroyed the cultural infrastructure of the country. As a result, the historical context have been misinterpreted. In Messianic, its richness has been looted since antiquity, and the evidence of it stretches all the way until exploration began in 2009. Conducting excavation in one of the most insecure areas of the country has brought challenges. The opportunity to conduct a sustainable excavations in the world, but it has already yielded important information of an insufficiently known period of the world's history. Misanok was also a key economic center in Gandhara and also a place where the great religions of Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism met, and where ancient Greek, Persian, Central Asian, and Indian cultures with local cultures melded. It is located, as I previously mentioned, it is located in the Logar province, around 40 kilometers southwest of Kabul, and it stands about 2,500 meters above the sea level. The site is about 5 square kilometers. During the Soviet occupation of the area in 1980s, generally mining operations were conducted in the mountain area to determine the purity and dimensions of the copper deposits. Here you can see, during these researches for the mining extractions, the two big deposit have been identified. One is the Western Anak deposit and the other one is the Central Anak deposit. Later when the project for exploitation was revived after the NATO intervention, and it was determined that Messianic holds the second largest copper deposit in the world. The Messianic site was first explored in 1960s, and then in 1970s there were a couple of trenches were dug to see the amount of minings. And during those exploration, a large number of pottery was also excavated. A large number of pottery was also collected during the surface collection. The site is briefly mentioned in 1982 in the Archaeological Gazetteer of Afghanistan, published by the Rekbal. In 2004, more recent significant looting of the Messianic artifact reported. Thus, the Institute of Archaeology had the opportunity to go on the site. When some years later, discussions between Afghan government and Chinese mining companies started, the National Institute was asked to conduct an archaeological survey of the area. The remains were then identified from Kushan period up to the late Shahi period, 1st century to 9th century, and rescue excavations started since 2009. So as I mentioned before, there has been two deposits, Western Anak deposit and Central Anak deposit. Currently, our main focus is on the Central Anak deposit. And in this area, we have identified a lot of structures, a lot of this is a complete city, and we are working around. Currently, we are working in an area around 16% of the whole Anak concession. There is another look of this site of Miss Anak. You can see here, these the two areas, the two deposits. This is the area we are currently working, and during in this area, in the red colors, inside the red colors, we have identified various features in our excavations. And see, so these features are mostly we divided into four parts. One is the mining and smelting area. So, and the other one is the residential and administrative area, which has been highlighted with different colors. You can see where the mining area is located and where the administrative area is located and where the religious and city wall has been located. And during the excavation, when we found these structures, we have inventoried, we have had a complete documentation of these structures. So here is an example of this documentation. This is also the work which has been doing on by our team. As I mentioned before, the chronology of Messianic until now, we have excavated the items, the objects, and the structures dated to the 2nd and 1st century AD until the 8th and 9th century AD. But probably there has been some evidences which can prove that the site has been much older than that, and we have recently found some objects which probably which can show that the site has been dated to the 4th or 5th century BC, and there has been also some more evidences that we have found it, and which can show that the site has been more than dated to the 5th, 7th or 8th century BC. As I mentioned, there are four features of the site. This mining and smelting areas we have identified in the Messianic site. And this is one of the most interesting aspects of Messianic is the apparent association of many monasteries with economic activity of copper mining. From what is visible in the sweat trenches dug in the upper part of western slope of the Anak mountain is that this part was densely covered with buildings, either to organize the copper extraction by a system of terraces in successive stages or to protect and control the extractions and processing of copper. The lower part of the slope is totally covered with slag from the extraction of copper during ancient time. Copper was either extracted from the surface of the mountain through natural cracks or man-made shafts. It later had two smelting processes, one to prepare the metal from the rock and another to purify and obtain the raw metal. To the north of the fortification wall, the excavation have exposed a network of mine shafts for copper extraction that have been measured to reach over 100 million meters deep into the mountain. Excavation work on the southern half of the mountain has also yielded in evidences of a major stone quarry that probably was the source of all construction material for the city. Another feature is the residential and administrative area. The two city centers have been distinguished throughout the different occupation period of the site. The largest and more complex of them occurred during the Kushan Sasanian period and was located at the center of the valley area. You can see this is in the one picture, the right top, this is the center of the city. And less sophisticated centers shifted during the Hephthalite period to the northeastern slope of the mountain area. Both centers have evidence of residential structures, public buildings, urban infrastructures such as water systems, streets, and open squares, and multiple religious structures of different denominations. The residential and administrative quarters have compounded residences with adjoining workshop areas as well as massive administration buildings with decorating towers. There is a complex underground water network that supplied to most of the site. Uh, there is also religious structures you can see here. As I mentioned, there were around seven religious complexes, or Buddhist religious complexes were excavated, and the major religions complexes of both Buddhism and Zoroastrian practices have been identified in the periphery of the city's fortification wall, with a notable exception of a Zoroastrian complex within the city. There is strong evidence of Buddhism being the main religions practiced in Sinai. Nevertheless, Zoroastrianism stands as the official religion. Evidence of Hindu and Greek religions are also attested. The symmetry found is of Zoroastrian practices. The Buddhist complexes can be grouped in three types: monastery or vihara, religious complexes which were mostly used for worshipping and housing of monks, and gumpas, group of small temple building and stupas, worshipping for teaching and learning, and monastic dwellings, place of shelters which were used mostly by the monks and usually for gumpa. These religious complexes, as I mentioned, was around seven. One was the Gulhamitape, which is located out of this red zone, but was the first one which were excavated, and currently the excavation has been stopped in this area. And the second one was the Kafiri Tape, and we have been excavated a main stupa surrounded by a small stupa you can see here, and with the chapel rooms and some other structure have been identified and unearthed during the excavation in the Kafiri Tape. Here is some of the example of these Kafiri Tape structures. The stupa you can see surrounded by small stupas and some sculptures, clay sculptures. There is also Shamar Tape, it is a big stupa, and some other structures have been identified in this spot. In some other, you can see the schist reliefs have been excavated, jars and structures, walls, administrative areas, and some other many structures have been. This was the Misanak was a complete city. There is some other example of the religious complexes. You can see this is the area of area 45, located on the top of the mountain with a lot of Buddhist stupas and rooms, wall paintings, sculptures. You can see we have been excavated, and there was the other feature of this area is the identification and discovery of the city wall. So far, we have identified the city wall in two areas, but still the excavation is going on, and probably the wall can be searched completely. In the finds, we have found finds in shape of manuscripts, wall paintings, sculptures, schist made of clay, made of schist stone, and in other stones, from wooden sculptures. You can see here. This is the only and probably the most valuable wooden sculpture of the Buddha in Abhaya Mudra, which is complete. Though we have another Buddha sculptures in wood in Abhaya Mudra, but this is the complete and more and too much in a good condition of this Abhaya Mudra. We have also found thousands of coins belongs to the period Kushan period and Kushano-Sasanian period and later period. So almost 8,000 coins have been identified and unearthed from the Messianic site. You can see some gold coins and the ceramics and pottery. You can see here they have some special stamps which are very unique from the Messianic site. These are the sculptures that we have founded and we have excavated and we have transferred these to the National Museum of Afghanistan after the restoration. You know, one of the important work that what we did in the past days was the data to archive and manage all the data what we have recorded in the last almost 10 years. So we included this data to the state of conservation of archaeological structure and architectural relics in order to lay the ground for the conservation of conservation strategy to be fully developed. Being the area excavated so far quite extended, a pilot project was together with the help of UNESCO was conducted to select to elaborate a standardized system for the collection of the data and on the current state of conservation. And this work was done for a couple of sites, and then we develop and we put all this data into a GIS, web GIS, which is currently under work, and probably soon we will launch this web GIS, and the people are the interested experts and scholars. They can achieve and they can see all the data, all the excavation reports, and all the informations online if they need it. So here is a couple more example of the sculptures that we have excavated and we have restored and now transferred to the National Museum, where they have put these sculptures on display in special exhibitions. So this was the very brief information about the archaeological work, archaeological excavation, and restoration projects that currently the Afghan Institute of Archaeology is currently they are doing with our international partners, especially with thanks to our donors, the World Bank, the U.S. Embassy, the French, Germans, and Japan, and Italy, and other countries who help us technically and financially for conducting these kind of activities. So thank you so much again for all your attention, and hope you have enjoyed. If there is any question, I'll be available to provide more clarification on this work that currently we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Noori. That was great.